Hey there, welcome back. It is wine time on LTV. I am your host, Erin Swain. I am a sommelier and also a surfer, as you can see from my little surf pictures back here, taken by my twin sister. And you can check me out on Instagram. I am at Surfing Somm. That's surfing the sport, SOMM. Please give me a follow. Feel free to DM me, ask me questions, give me feedback, tell me what you'd like to hear next. I'd love to hear from you. Today's episode is all about the components of wine. So in an effort to continue to build your wine education and your wine vocabulary, the components of wine sort of breaks things down to like a very basic level, and it is just important to think about every time you're tasting wine. So as a sommelier, my friends and family and clients ask me some interesting questions from time to time. Anything from, oh, it's my father-in-law's birthday, I want a special bottle, this is how much I want to spend, or I'm going on a date, but it's only the second date, what wine should I pick out? I've had clients actually text me pictures of a wine list that they're having dinner at a different restaurant that I don't work at to have me select their bottle of wine. So one of my friends, he was going to a tasting and he was going with his boss and he does not know about wine, and he said to me, Erin, I really need your help. What do I say about wine so that I don't sound like an idiot? And I said, all right, Rick, this is what you're gonna do. You are going to taste your wine, you're going to furrow your brow a little bit, you're gonna smell it. When you sip it, hold it in your mouth for just a minute, keep your brow furrowed, be pretty serious. Swallow, set it down, and then say, wow, that's really well balanced. And of course, Rick was like, this is great. Oh my gosh, well balanced, that's great. Now, what does well balanced mean? So I start laughing and I said, oh, well, I guess we didn't go that far. So I had to explain to him what well balanced wine means. And well balanced wine is those four components that are harmoniously interacting. So we've got fruit or sweet, we've got acid, we've got tannin, and we've got alcohol. And those four components should all be interacting beautifully. That's the goal of every winemaker, to make a well-balanced wine. So those are the key terms I want you to take away with today, the components. So sugar, acid, alcohol, tannin. And I have 2 whites, 2 reds, so that we can discuss these kind of components of wines. And the first one that I chose and selected today is an Alsatian Riesling. This is a 2007. It is a screw cap. Super easy to open. And Riesling, people can sometimes confuse Rieslings with being sweet wines. This is from Alsace. Alsace tends to vinify completely dry. So these wines are really beautiful food wines, and they aren't too sweet. When people say Rieslings are sweet, go try an Alsatian wine. Alsace is in France. It's on the German border. You'll see a lot of German influence in the bottles and a little bit of the winemaking. So this Riesling, 2007, remember we swirl to aerate. We're gonna smell it. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So this wine has a lot of lime. There's little hints of like underripe white peach. You're getting lemon zest, and you get these really cool rocky minerality on these wines. And this wine, I'm gonna taste it first, but this wine should scream acid. Yes. So a note on acid. My mouth right now just feels like I bit into a lemon. My sides are watering. The front of my palate is lifting up on the taste buds. This is crisp and acidic. Acid is such a cool component in wine. This one has really nice levels of sweetness. When we talk about sweetness, you can swirl the wine and you can look at the tears. Some people call them legs, and that will speak to levels of residual sugar and alcohol content. So this wine is a really beautiful, bright, acidic wine. And the alcohol in this wine is pretty light. It's only 12%. And this wine would be great with a lot of shellfish. It's wonderful with light poultry and any seafood. So this is our Alsatian Riesling. It's a really, really nice expression, really clean, definitely an example of acid in one of our components. I'm gonna open every bottle on this show to show you how you should be opening. You'll have your foil cutter. You want to cut under the second lip of the bottle and get right into that foil. Try to cut it off clean so that you can lift it up and get that all off in one. So this wine is very special to me. This is a Chardonnay from Lombardy Vineyards in Sonoma Coast. So I have a Sonoma County wine over here. Sonoma Coast is out on the coast, so it has a maritime influence. And these wines, I actually met Tony Lombardi, the proprietor, at a James Beer dinner that he was hosting for a gentleman in California that prepares fish tacos. And it was a wine and waves kind of James Beer dinner. It was very, very cool. So Tony was there and we got to taste his wines and eat fish tacos. So it's super fun. So this is a Chardonnay. Chardonnay is the variety, and Chardonnays tend to have a little bit more tropical fruit, especially out of California. You get a little more pineapple, you get sometimes some passion fruit, and then you get something that's one of my favorite components, which is when they barrel an oak, it will see malolactic fermentation. And malolactic fermentation is the conversion of malic acid, like in green apple, into lactic acid, like in milk. So when you hear that someone's getting a creamy, buttery Chardonnay, that is exactly what's happening in the glass. I can smell and nose. This has seen malolactic. This definitely is going to have a creamy, buttery sensation. Really, really beautiful nose. This wine, I feel it more in the center of the palate, has a little bit less acid than the first wine, but it has, you can tell, it has a little bit more alcohol, and it has a beautiful sense of sweet or fruit in the sugar notes. So again, both are beautifully well balanced with our components. These don't really have tannins as much as the reds we're going to get into, because we're going to talk a little bit about tannin. But this Chardonnay, really, really beautiful, really buttery. It would go amazing with something with a little more structure and a little more fat as opposed to this wine. So it would hold up with a cream sauce, a lobster bisque, some really, really fun clam chowders, and anything with a little cream or pasta that has shellfish in it would be a really beautiful pairing for this wine. So we're gonna move on to the reds. And I've got a Pinot Noir, 2016 Bravium from Anderson Valley. So this is in Mendocino County, also coming out of California. And this wine, actually, the winemaker just emailed me, told me that he is also a UC Davis graduate. Spent a lot of his time surfing and loves the appreciation for wine and waves as well. So Pinot Noirs are thinner skin grapes. That means, just like the last episode, they're gonna be a little bit lighter in body, and the color is gonna reflect that as well. Oh, beautiful color on this one. Kind of a cranberry red. Bravium actually is the Latin word for gift, and the winemakers truly want to give the gift of wine, and I think that they've done it. So immediately when I look at this wine, I see the color is a lovely, lovely garnet. It's progressing quickly to a thin, watery rim, which is indicative of acid, which I think I'll find out when I taste this. Okay, this Pinot Noir has beautiful acidity. The acidity is coming on the sides of my mouth. This would be a great food wine. It's great to drink alone. I would prefer this wine a little bit chilled, actually. Sometimes Americans tend to drink our red wines a little too warm, or white wines a little too cold, so temperature is very important when you're tasting wines. But this wine has a lot of cranberry notes, a little bit of pomegranate, a little bit of cherry. It has these really nice red fruits, and then it has this sort of spice notes coming through that are really, really delicate and really beautiful. And I'm getting almost like a little bit of baking spice, but they're subdued, and a little sassafras. It's a really, really cool Pinot Noir. And the subtleties of these nuances are beautiful. This would be another amazing food wine. I want to open my fourth wine and show a side-by-side comparison because the fourth wine that I'm opening today is a Bordeaux blend. So the 5 Bordeaux varietals are Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. Those are the 5 grapes that originate in Bordeaux. They grow in Bordeaux, but when they grow them in the New World, like California, like this example here, they call them a Bordeaux blend, but it's coming from the New World. So you'll see this also called a Meritage. This one they do call a Meritage. It's from Dry Creek, and it's the Mariner. It's 2014. And so this is primarily Cabernet. It's 69% Cabernet, and then 12% Petit Verdot, 9% Merlot, 8% Malbec, and 2% Cab Franc. So it has all 5 grapes in it, which is super cool, and kind of what is known for in California when you're blending a Bordeaux blend. So immediately, again, we're going to lightly pull this cork out really, really nicely. And cool. Hopefully the color on this one will really come through. So I'm going to do a little color comparison, if you can kind of see that on the camera. This wine is much, much darker. I think I did discuss that about seeing through or not seeing through. So this is thick-skinned grapes. So immediately, one of the components that's going to scream to me is tannin. Tannins are very important because tannins are found in grape skins, and they act as preservatives, and they can allow for age-worthy wines. So this is a 2014. It has, 6 years of age on it. And these wines can age up to 20 years, 30 years, sometimes longer, depending on how much oak is in it. Oh, wow. Okay, this nose is really, really, really beautiful. It's very, very fruit driven, but the fruit is different. Where I was getting these cranberry notes in here, this one is giving me stewed plums. It's giving me hints of tobacco. I'm getting vanilla. I'm getting a little cigar. I'm getting some spice. There's a lot going on in this wine, and there are 5 different grape varieties that are kind of comprising that to make that up. So it is pretty cool. But definitely, this is more of an example of tannin than we've had in here. So kind of went from acid, sweet, this one's acid, this one's a lot more tannic. So if you are doing comparative tastings and you want to explore the components, those 4 components to comprise a wine that's well balanced, you do want to taste sort of different styles. And that's what I've done here. I've chose Alsace, I've chose California Chardonnay, we then did a Pinot Noir from California, and now I'm doing the Bordeaux blend. So I'm going to give this one a try. It is important to hold the wine in your mouth for a few seconds and then actually pay attention to what it feels like on your palate when you're finishing the wine, because this is called length. And the length of the wine sort of lets you know what this wine would pair well with and how long it's going to stay on your palate, and if it's super dry, and where the tannins are. So for tannins, if you've ever had a wine and you start feeling a sensation like you've eaten some chalk, it's like just sucks out all the moisture, the opposite of acid, in your mouth, or if you get a feeling in between your gum and upper lip line or lower lip line, or on your teeth that you feel like you want to brush your teeth because there's something like on them, those are tannins, and that's what tannins feel like. And tannins are a major part of wine. They make for beautiful expressions of wine, but they also are important with food pairing. So sommeliers really think about tannins when they think about what they're going to suggest that you drink while you're eating a steak, for example, or you have a duck breast, but you have something with dark fruits like a plum sauce. You'd move more into this kind of wine with the tannin structure, which is really fun and really cool. So the 4 components that we want you to know, it's sugar, acid, tannin, alcohol. When I talk about sugar, I like to remind all the people I'm educating that you can think of sugar, but you can also think of fruit. Because when you're developing your wine vocabulary, knowing the fruits really helps you to identify what's going on in the glass, what grape variety you're drinking. And it sort of just helps you become a wealth of wine vocabulary and further your education and be able to continue the conversation about wine. Just like we did on our nose last time with the aromas and the bouquets, now here we're talking about the palate, and we're talking about little components that really bring together a wine and what the winemaker's goal is, which is to make every drinker happy and the outcome of the wine really well balanced. So all of these wines today have expressions of well balanced. These are all really, really beautiful stylistic expressions. And I think that this would be a great flight to do at home. If you are ever doing a wine tasting, really think about which kind of wines are sort of similar and which kind of wines are very different. So for my first two white wines, the Riesling and the Chardonnay are sort of counterbalances in white wine. They're really, really great to taste side by side. I enjoy that. When you smell them on the nose, it's fun in a blind to know which different is, and that's kind of what sommeliers like to geek out on. And then for the reds, where I've done the Pinot Noir, so a little thin-skinned grape. You can see the color there. You can see how thin it is with the fruits that are red fruits, cherry, pomegranate. We're getting raspberry in that one, to a Cabernet blend with more dark fruits and plum and black cherry, and really, really, really cool nose on that one. So also, I have a very special treat. Today I sat down with Kristen Bieler, and Kristen is the editor-in-chief of 750 Daily, which is the leading wine and spirits industry magazine and publication. So Kristen is a wealth of knowledge. She's a delight to drink with. She is articulate and amazing and well-traveled. So I was very, very happy to sit down and share a glass of wine with Kristen. And she got to tell me about her journey as a food and wine journalist. So please check it out, and here it is. All right, hey there. I am here with a very special guest. I'm very excited. This is Kristen Bieler. She is the editor-in-chief from the leading wine and spirits magazine called 750 Daily. And we are here in Montauk sharing a glass of wine.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I get to ask her all about her career, which is super exciting. So thank you for coming onto the show. So Kristen, how did you get into wine?
So I was an undergraduate at Cornell, and I was a history major, but I took one class at the hospitality school on wine, and I kind of got the bug. So when I moved to New York, I got into book publishing, and then found my way very quickly back to wine, and I've been writing about wine and spirits for over 2 decades.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. Now, in your experience, I'm sure you've traveled a ton. So what are your most memorable wine trips that you've taken?
There's so many amazing ones. This exact time last year, I was in Argentina's Uco Valley, which is the highest elevation subregion of Mendoza, and it's just a region like none other. Your vineyards are sometimes 6,000 feet above sea level, which is very hard to get grapes to ripen there. But they have this magical sunshine, and it's just this really unique climate that allows you to craft Malbecs that have a lot of structure and complexity, unlike a lot of the kind of inexpensive Malbecs that you get at this grocery store. And you're surrounded by the snow-capped Andes Mountains, so it's completely spectacular. I would also have to say, I've been to Italy many, many times on wine trips, and it's perhaps one of the greatest wine-producing countries in the world. But Umbria is a region that not a lot of people explore, because it's the only region in Italy that's not touching an ocean or another country. It's totally landlocked. So it has all the charm of Tuscany, but none of the tourists and a lot less polish. So you get just real authentic Italian wines. And there's a grape there called Sagrantino. It's only grown in Umbria. And it's kind of Umbria's gift to the wine world. It's this outstanding, complex, really dark and broody red, which I just love. And the food's amazing too.
Awesome, yeah. Awesome. Now, how do you come up with your stories and your pieces that you're going to work on next?
So what we really focus on is, the business of wine and spirits and the people who produce it and sell it. And that's kind of what distinguishes our publication. And I would say this year, 2020, which has been unusual in so many ways, never before in my life, in my professional life, have I seen the news cycle impact our industry as much as it has. Starting in the beginning of the year with the tariffs, that impacted so many of the wine categories that are imported to the US, which was devastating. And then, of course, the pandemic, which has completely destroyed in so many ways the restaurant industry across our country. And then the Black Lives Matter movement, which we published an essay by Dorothy Gator, which talked about, she's a Black wine journalist who's been writing about wine for, I guess, over 4 decades. And she wrote about her experience of being Black in the very white world of wine and what that was like. And we were credited for kind of breaking the story of racism in the wine industry with that piece. So we've really been, none of my planned coverage ran this year, I should say. We've been really trying to keep up with what's happening in the news cycle and in our industry. But yes, I mean, we also write a lot about the science of wine. Our readers tend to love that, and just the history and the stories of people who are producing.
Super cool, super cool. What do we have here? So
this is, I should say, probably my third most favorite wine producing place is South Africa. And this is a Chenin Blanc from South Africa, one of my favorites from Oopstal. South Africa there's just no place on earth more beautiful than the wine regions of South Africa. You're in vineyards watching whales jump in the ocean. And it's still really grappling with its very troubled past, particularly anything involving agriculture, which of course is the wine industry. You very much feel the effects of apartheid, even today. And a lot of the kind of the young generation that's come and making some of the most exciting quality-focused wines there today are young men who grew up in the shadow of apartheid. And a lot of them fled and traveled, and now they're back and they're reclaiming this ancient tradition and making some of the best wines the country's ever made. So
yeah, this is delightful.
Isn't that nice?
Really, really lovely. So when you are drinking wine yourself, what are your favorite wines?
I would have to say for whites, which I love whites, I love so many whites, but I would have to say the whites of Austria are some of my favorite. They're refreshing because they're kind of high-toned, acid-driven wines. You can drink them on a really hot day, but they have this richness and this kind of oily texture that makes them great for sipping by a fire on a snow day.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And then for reds, I would say I really gravitate to wines of southern France. So all throughout the Rhone, actually northern Rhone, which are the kind of Syrah-based age-worthy wines, and then in the southern Rhone where the wines are more Grenache dominated and with a lot of Syrah as well, and just sunny and ripe and chewy, and they have kind of a nice rusticity to them, even though they're they're refined wines, they're accessible wines, but there's an honesty to a lot of the reds from that part of the world that really appeals to me.
Awesome. Now, when you entertain, what kind of wines do you pour for your guests when you're entertaining in Montauk or in the city?
We pour a lot of rosé. My husband is a wine producer. He produces rosé in Washington State and southern France, in Provence. So we always have a lot of rosé open all year long on our table. But the nice thing about it, we're just constantly experimenting. We love a lot of natural wines, tasting a lot of wines from Bulgaria, believe it or not, you're starting to see now. I love Greek wines. There's always something new to discover. And all wines want to be sold in the US, particularly the New York market. So we are really spoiled by a lot of choice.
That is true, very true. The last question for you today is, what is the most exciting project that you're working on right now?
So right now I'm focused on a series of articles about the ways in which the pandemic will permanently alter our industry, meaning wine, spirits, and hospitality and restaurants, and in some ways affect permanent change that might be positive. So you saw it initially. I mean, obviously you have this tremendous devastation with the entire restaurant industry nearly collapsing and trying to come back now. But you also have the adoption of technology, and e-commerce, which is relatively new to our industries. And that I don't think is going away. A lot of liquor laws are changing in many, many states across the country, allowing operators to sell wine and spirits to go, restaurant operators to say wine to go, cocktails to go. A lot of the laws are loosening in terms of outdoor drinking, which I think is a huge positive. These are laws that have been on the books since Prohibition ended in our country, so we need to see some change. And then the way that restaurant culture, I think, is going to evolve. I speak with a lot of sommeliers who have used this time to reflect, and they don't want to go back to a lot of these environments where it's really authoritarian, misogynistic, kind of inhumane hours. So I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of reimagine how we want restaurants to work, what kind of culture we want to have there. And I think that could be a real positive.
Well, awesome. We're looking forward to everything that you're putting out and everything that you're doing in the wine world. Thank you for sitting down with me. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. So that was me and Kristen sitting down for a little chat. She is just wonderful. I'm very lucky I got to sit down with her. And I hope you tune in next time. Thank you for watching. This was Wine Time. I'll see you next time. Cheers.